You've got questions? O'Reilly Auto Parts has answers. Need a pro you can trust? We've got that too. No matter what you need, our professional parts people have the training and expertise to help you do things right. Deep automotive knowledge, just one part that makes O'Reilly stand apart. The professional parts people.
O'Reilly Auto Parts.
Hey everyone, and welcome to Real Life Real Crime Daily for Wednesday, March 15th. And I'm Jim Chapman.
And I'm Mike Agavino, which means there's a name that we skipped.
Yes, there is.
We are in missing man formation this morning.
We got a man down.
Man down. Woody is down for the count.
Yeah.
So, Jim, do you think Woody being sick, how do you think that impacts some of Woody's vices and his consumption of them? Well, but do you think he's on a zero alcohol?
No, I think
situation?
that's his medicine.
Okay, so you think he's going to still work the alcohol?
I think it's possible.
Do you think he'll still reach for the occasional lung biscuit and, just to make sure that throat is in perfect working order?
We got to keep that voice good and raspy.
His treatment plan, which sounds like it's sort of combination whiskey, cigarettes, and rest.
Right.
So the WSR.
It's kind of like back in the old West times.
Whiskey, cigarettes, and rest.
Whiskey cured everything in the Civil War, right? You threw it, you poured it down wounds, you drank it for pain medication. Heck, you drank it just to get by. So
well, if he's back in the saddle with us for next show, we'll know that combination of whiskey, cigs, and rest is the way to beat this thing. But
that's right.
Seriously, feel better, Woody. We miss you, and I'm a little sad because I wanted to talk a little bit with Woody today about my experience this past weekend because I learned proper crawfish eating technique this weekend and wanted to actually show him some of the tricks of the trade that I had learned so he could criticize my technique. But I wanted to do a quick shout out and just say congrats to my son-in-law and his teammates at Isidore Newman, who won the state Division III basketball championship this weekend, which is what set off the Crawdad Eating Fest, along with a lot of other things being eaten fest, along with a lot of other things being
drinking
liquid consumption. And so proud of him and proud of the team. And that was awesome. And that's back to back. They won it last year.
Go Greenies.
The Greenies win.
Yeah, very good. All right, so in our last episode, we told y'all about Nathan Millard. He went missing in Baton Rouge, and eventually he was found rolled in a carpet in a, let's just say, really bad area of Baton Rouge. East Baton Rouge City Police came out and said that he was not considered a victim of foul play. And that created a lot of backlash. The wife had said that she was looking for the state police to possibly take over the investigation. She did not feel like they were communicating with her. She had a lot of issues with that. You know, the police were basically saying there was no foul play. Well, the question was, how did he get rolled up in a carpet if there was no foul play? The obvious question. So Baton Rouge City Police came out. They released the name of an individual who was considered a person of interest by the name of Derek Perkins, 45 years old. And they had a slew of charges that they were looking to talk to him about. One of them was unauthorized use of a motor vehicle, access device fraud, and some other things. He also had some warrants out, I believe, and they kind of put out an APB on this guy. Well, the public was like, where was this information when you were saying he was not a victim of foul play? Monday, March 13th, he was finally arrested after several days of searching for Derek Perkins, and he was charged with unauthorized use of a motor vehicle, access device fraud, and some fugitive charges. Now, in the affidavit, police say that Perkins used Millard's debit card at the Kangaroo Express, which is like a gas station on Highland Road in Baton Rouge, which is a kind of like a main street in Baton Rouge, Louisiana. And it's also very close to the LSU campus. Now, police say Perkins was seen on surveillance video making multiple purchases at the store throughout the day. So he was going in and out several times. The purchases match Millard's bank statements. Now, Perkins also allegedly made purchases a few blocks away at a liquor store. Police allege the car that Perkins was seen in at the convenience store as the same car that was reported stolen on February 3rd. The victim said he was helping a friend move when the car was stolen, and police say the same car, a blue 2004 Toyota Camry, matched the car Perkins was seen in at the convenience store. Now, the black male entered the store and used the debit card at the gas pumps. He was positively identified as Perkins by a confidential informant. So that's how they came to know who this individual was. And obviously that he was using a dead person's debit card, which is obviously a problem. Now, police say license plate readers throughout Baton Rouge show that someone switched the plate on the car sometime at the end of February or the beginning of March. Now, Perkins' vehicle was found torched, set on fire close to where Millard's body was recovered. A cadaver dog was able to lead officers to Perkins' car, specifically the trunk. So that makes you wonder right there. If they took out cadaver dogs, even though a body wasn't in that car, those cadaver dogs can sense that a body at some point was in that trunk. And they were keying in on that. So they have caught that individual. That's kind of some breaking news for you. And we're going to keep you updated on this case.
This next story, Woody would have loved had he been sitting here, and hopefully he will listen and get good enjoyment out of it. This is a weird one, but an execution was scheduled in the state of Texas for a death row inmate by the name of Andre Thomas. They referred to him as a blind psychotic, and the reason they referred to him as a blind psychotic is because he gouged out both of his eyes. His attorneys have said that after he gouged out his second eye, he ate it to ensure that the government could not hear his thoughts.
Tastes like chicken.
Unbelievable. So the execution that was scheduled for next month has been delayed by a judge who reviewed the case on Tuesday. Thomas was supposed to be executed on April 5th, and that was the sentence handed down to him for fatally stabbing his estranged wife, Laura Christine Boren, who was 20, their 4-year-old son, Andre Lee, and her 13-month-old daughter, Leah Hughes, and cutting out the hearts of the two children.
Not a good
This
guy.
is an effed up dude. He later told police that God had instructed him to commit the killings and that he believed all three, his estranged wife, the 4-year-old son, and the 13-month-old daughter, were demons. The killings took place in a town called Sherman, Texas, which is a sizable town, 45,000 residents, about an hour north of Dallas. The Supreme Court has prohibited the death penalty for people who are described as intellectually disabled, but not for people with serious mental illnesses. So intellectually disabled versus serious mental illness, there's some nuance there between the definitions, because I don't know what's which category you would put this particular individual in. But the Supreme Court ruled that a person must be competent to be executed. And so this is now the court speaking here. We are confident that when we present the evidence of Mr. Thomas's incompetence, this is his attorney, the court will agree that executing him would violate the Constitution. Maury Levin is the attorney's name. Guiding this blind psychotic man to the gurney for execution offends our sense of humanity and serves no legitimate purpose. Does it offend your sense of humanity, Jim?
I would say it definitely offends my sense of humanity. Not that he is, not the execution aspect, but the fact that of his crime.
Yeah, but this is the attorney saying
it offends his. No,
no. I don't think there's too many folks out there who are going to have our sense of humanity offended by this guy being gurneyed out to be put to death. And so, we'll see what happens with this appeal. Thomas's attorney has until July 5th to file a motion asking for the inmate's competency to be reviewed. We would expect for them to do that based upon the earlier statements, and so we will await that and see what happens next. But that was for you, Woody.
Yeah, and a very strange case, and Woody be the first one to tell you, and something that he's hammered down many times when we've podcasted together is it's very hard to determine mental capacity. Now, on its face, this story, you look at a guy that's gouged out both of his eyes, eight, one of them. He killed his wife and his kids, pulled their hearts out. All of these things on its face, the guy's crazy, right? That's the first thing you say. This guy's got to be nuts. There's a lot that goes into that behind the scenes on how to determine that. And one of those is premeditation. Did he take steps ahead of time to commit this crime that would prove that he's not crazy? Because when someone's crazy, they don't premeditate things. This is the thought process. So that is something very hard to prove that someone's actually crazy. You can't look at everything on its face because the act itself is obviously crazy. And then in addition to that, his mental capacity playing a part. I don't know I haven't seen any information on whether he's ever taken an IQ test or something and he tested, 40s or 50s. In a crime that you commit, any sort of premeditation or planning, or even after, if you commit the crime and then you dispose of the murder weapon, you try to dispose of the bodies. Well, that takes the crazy aspect out of it. You have too much planning before and after to justify that. So, very hard thing to prove. And even when on its face, it's the first thing you think.
Well, I think if our absent partner was here, he would say something like, they need to smoke them like a pack of cools.
I think he would.
So let's hope that pack of cools gets smoked.
That's right.
This next one is unbelievable. We're talking about Sushi Terrorists.
You heard that?
Two
right.
words you probably never expected to hear back to back. But a 21-year-old man and two teens were arrested. This actually happened in Japan, so not at your friendly neighborhood sushi place. But a 21-year-old man and two teens were arrested following an unsanitary prank at a conveyor belt sushi restaurant. So I guess these have become really popular in Japan, where you place your order and your sushi comes out on a conveyor belt, and then you pick it up off of the conveyor belt as it comes out. So nobody is delivering it to your table. 3 people have been arrested in Japan following their alleged connection to what is being described as sushi terrorism, unsanitary pranks at sushi conveyor belt restaurants that have been captured on viral video and sparked outrage. I guess what really drove this thing is people were posting, the folks that were doing this were posting it on social platforms. And so it became kind of a, not exactly the ice bucket challenge, but it became a viral thing. And so people in a variety of these kind of sushi restaurants were doing this. So police in the city of Nagoya arrested a 21-year-old named Ryoga Yoshino. And what they're saying he allegedly did is licked a bottle of soy sauce in widely circulated video, as well as 2 other teens, ages 19 and 15, also doing this. So the authorities say that the 3 are being held for, quote, forcible obstruction of business, a charge I am unfamiliar with. Perhaps it's only Japanese law, but that's what they're being held for. And the alleged sushi terrorism incident took place at a restaurant called Kura Sushi, which is, as I said, one of these conveyor belt sushi restaurants. Police say that the circulation of the video, the restaurant's management company had to deal with compensation claims from people who had eaten at the restaurant. So once this stuff started going around on social media, people started coming back to the restaurant and asking for money back or even just compensation claims afterwards. So the spokesperson from the restaurant told the BBC that this had become a real trend, which has been happening since January on social media, and it's extremely dangerous. So bunch of people doing it and posting on TikTok, et cetera, et cetera. All the suspects involved in this one particular incident have allegedly admitted to their involvement in the prank, calling it a prank, with one allegedly apologizing to the authorities, according to reports. The statuses of their cases right now are unclear. Conveyor belt sushi restaurants are looking to alleviate customer concerns, while some chains have opted to not use conveyor belts altogether, per the BBC. So some of these restaurants that were using this conveyor belt technology to operate have gone back to a more traditional means of serving. And so their people are no longer grabbing food off of these belts. But Kura Sushi, which is the restaurant where this happened, aims to use artificial intelligence to crack down on unsanitary behavior. And they aim to use artificial intelligence. So I guess add that to the, there's lots of claims that artificial intelligence won't replace, sentient beings. But this case certainly goes counter to the notion. So get rid of those people. And I don't know. You ever been a food server, Jim?
I have not. Actually, one of the jobs.
Never done that.
Never done that.
Okay. Well, I did a little bit of this in my youth. And I don't know what the statute of limitations on something like this would be, but I think I'm probably clear of it. Anyone that works in the food service industry, I mean, you deal with all kinds of people every day, people that are great to you, tip well, are very friendly, and then people that are absolute jerks. And at a point in time, I worked in a very snooty place as a server. And, if somebody did me wrong, I might take a little. Oh Lord! I might take a little. I might take a little shot back, Jim. My preferred one was the booger to the tuna fish. Was the,
Lord,
they're going to be like that, and they deserve a little shot of booger in the tuna fish. Anyway, that is our sushi terrorists.
Well, I'll tell you. A couple of years back, there was a big outrage, and I want to say it was Bluebell ice cream, but I can't remember exactly what type of product it was. But it was in the United States, and people were doing something very similar. They were licking it might have been Bluebell ice cream, and correct me if I'm wrong, peeps, but
Woody's talked about this. Right?
They were licking. They were actually pulling the lid off, licking it, and putting the lid back on in grocery stores. That's really bad, man. I've never had a desire to do that, and then you're doing it for somebody you don't know who's going to get that. So it's not it's not Mike at the restaurant and someone pissed him off, right? This is just disgusting. And so, not the first time that's come around. Maybe the first time was sushi, but not the first time that idea has come up. But something that actually took place here in the United States a few years ago as well.
Spark something uncommon this holiday with just the right gift from Uncommon Goods. The busy holiday season is here, and Uncommon Goods makes it less stressful with incredible hand-picked gifts for everyone on your list, all in one spot. Gifts to spark joy, wonder, delight, and that's exactly what I wanted feeling. Hey, y'all, I ordered a super cool piece. It's a candle with a sculpture of LSU's Tiger Stadium on top of it. And each officially licensed laser cut wooden replica features up to 4 layers of detail, creating a bird's eye view of a specific football field, seating section, and more. And every label includes your stadium's name, the team's logo, and school location. And it has a coconut, soy, vegan wax infused with sandalwood smell that creates tailgates and touchdown scent profile, reminiscent of game day. It's invigorating like fresh cut grass and nostalgic like smoke from a pre-game grill, and calming like the crisp autumn air of a new semester on campus. Y'all, I love it. I have it at the base of my TV, and I'm ready to watch the Tigers play on Saturday night, right? Uncommon Goods. Look, when you shop at Uncommon Goods, you're supporting artists and small independent businesses. And many of their handcrafted products are made in small batches. So shop now before they sell out this holiday season. Uncommon Goods looks for products that are high quality, unique, and often handmade or made in the U.S. They have the most meaningful, out of the ordinary gifts anywhere. They even have gifts you can personalize. From holiday hosts and hostess gift to the coolest finds for kids, to hits for everyone from the book lovers to diehard sports fans. Uncommon Goods has something for everyone, not the same old selections you can just find anywhere. And with every purchase you make at Uncommon Goods, they give $1 to a nonprofit partner of your choice. They've donated more than $3 million to date. So to get 15% off your next gift, go to uncommongoods.com/RLRC. That's uncommongoods.com/RLRC for 15% off. Don't miss out on this limited time offer. Uncommon Goods, we're all out of the ordinary. Hey, y'all, let me tell you about Gobble. All Gobble meal kits are pre-prepped. That means less work for you and less waste in your kitchen. Their meal kits include everything you need so you can save time at the store or just skip that trip entirely. I got the box in and I had 3 different meals. I had a Kung Pao chicken, crispy fish tacos, and a beef bourguignon, however you say it. But let me tell you about the classic beef bourguignon. Look, it came with beef pot roast and a beef broth concentrate, red wine demi-glace, cremini mushrooms, cipollone onions, mashed potatoes, baby carrots, and rosemary thyme butter. It was so easy to make. Literally like 15 minutes it took Cindy. And let me tell you something, and all the dishes were fire, but this thing was like a taste explosion in my mouth. It's just unreal. We've got to spend more time together and more time doing the things we love because everything came in this one single box right to my door. So see what a difference Gobble will make for your household. Right now, they're offering my listeners a fantastic limited time deal. You get $120 off across 4 boxes plus free shipping and free cookies. And let me tell you, those cookies, I ate one that was sin baked and it was delicious. Go to gobble.com/real life. That's GOBBLE.com/real life for $120 off your first 4 boxes. This offer is not available on the home site, so don't miss out. This is genius. It's taste explosions in your mouth like you never had.
Folks, I'm really looking forward to this next story that Jim is going to deliver. And I'm really looking forward to it because there's a last name in this story that has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, has 16 letters in it. And
yes, it does.
We're going to see how Jim does on this last name.
When we came across this story, y'all, and Mike volunteered me to do it. The first thing I said was, have you seen the names in this story? Because everybody knows that my pronunciation of, I'm a good old country boy from South Louisiana, and there's one word in here I'm going to do my best on. So let's talk about this. And this is something that hits a little close to home, and it's podcasters. And there were a couple of.
Okay, but here's the rule.
Yes.
We are not going to edit out the first attempt at this name. We're going to leave that one in, and then we'll clean it up if we have to after. But I'm betting on you that you're gonna nail this one.
Boy, you got confidence in me today, Mike. I'm going to do my best. So, a Washington-based podcaster and her husband are dead. And police say the suspect was one of her own listeners who had been stalking her for months. Police said in a recent press release that they responded to the call of shots fired at a home, and it was about 1:45 a.m. This past Friday, and they found 3 dead at the scene. Police identified the suspect, Raymond Cotter Kadakarimzi. That's the best I can do. I'm probably not even close. That's the 16-letter word, y'all.
Well, let's just refer to them as Ramin through the rest of this story.
Ramin,
I think
okay.
That would probably be better, but I think it would be Kota Karamazai.
Kota Karamazai. Ramin Kota Karamazai, 38, as one of the deceased. Though police did not release the names of the victims, the Daily Beast reported them as 33-year-old podcaster Zora Sadeghi and her 35-year-old husband, Muhammad Nasseri. Police said when they entered the home, they had found a man who the Daily Beast identified as Nasseri lying on the floor injured from a gunshot wound and performed CPR. However, he succumbed to the injuries and was pronounced dead at the scene. He had been shot in the upper torso and had actually been trying to escape the home but collapsed near the front door. They went further into the home and discovered the bodies of Sadeghi and Ramin in the primary bedroom, per ABC News. Lowe told reporters that Ramin had died from a self-inflicted gunshot wound. Now, Ramin had broken into the couple's home through a window. Sadeghi's mother had also been in the house, but she escaped and called 911 at a neighbor's home. Police said in a press release they were familiar with Sadeghi and the home, as both had been part of a stalking investigation. So he was stalking this female podcaster well before this incident took place. Ramin contacted Sadeghi after listening in on a podcast she was featured in about gaining employment in the tech industry. Police said that the two exchanged messages, became friends, but then things escalated. Sadeghi contacted police in December about harassing behavior by Ramin and told them that he would repeatedly contact her on the phone and even called her more than 100 times in a single day. He said this eventually escalated to in-person stalking and that Ramin had visited her house once before and even followed her to a conference in Denver. Sadeghi filed a no-contact order against Ramin and was granted a temporary protection order to prevent contact between them, but police said at a press conference that they had been trying to find Ramin, who is believed to have been from Texas. They were having a hard time, though, finding him because he was a long-haul truck driver, and, of course, that keeps folks moving from state to state, and he was just kind of hard to track down.
Okay, can we just – I know there's more to this, but can we go time out for a second?
Sure.
And just talk about a couple of these things. Number one, I mean, this is scary because this is what we do, right?
Yep.
And there's that woman who wrote all those nasty things about me this morning that we were talking about a little while ago. But but she has a husband.
Yeah.
Who's also a podcaster.
Yeah.
What the hell, Mohammed? What the F did Mohammed do about this guy Ramin? I mean, He's stalking your wife. He follows her to a conference.
Calls her over 100
in Denver.
times
He calls her
one day.
100 times a day. And, look, you follow the rules and you call the police and you get your restraining order or whatever the heck you're going to do. But at a certain point, you're her husband and here's this guy. And what the heck are you doing to protect your wife? I mean, I don't get where Muhammad fits into this thing and why he wasn't packing.
And we're assuming he wasn't. We don't know that. Maybe they were sleeping. The guy got the jump on him, shot him in the hip. He was injured. Maybe he couldn't get to his gun. I don't know. This was at nighttime that this took place, so they were likely sleeping. And maybe
But the guy broke into their house.
Yeah, broke in, and he was shot. The husband. So,
well, I'm sorry. I know he passed away, but it just seems to me most of the time, these women are dealing with these crazies and getting restraining orders, and they're by themselves trying to protect themselves.
Right.
This woman had a husband who, just at least the way that with the available information, it doesn't look like he did a whole hell of a lot to make them more safe.
Right. Well, and it's important to keep in mind that a restraining order is really just a piece of paper that should a suspect violate the restraining order, it gives the police officers, the right to arrest this guy without anything taking place. So if I got a restraining order on somebody and they showed up on my property, that's all it would take. Or they showed up, sometimes these restraining orders will have, you can't even be within so many feet of somebody, and you don't even necessarily have to be committing any other crime, and you can be arrested for it. But the police said, the crime has to take place relative to violating the restraining order before they can do anything. And in this case, obviously he violated the restraining order, but by that time it was too late. Just a sad situation there for those folks. And our hearts go out to their families for sure.
Really sad.
Moving on to some more sad news, and that relates to the story we brought you last episode regarding the cartel that had killed 2 Americans of the 4 that were traveling to Mexico for a cosmetic surgery.
Do you know there was actually a 5th?
There was, but she was a local woman to Mexico, correct?
No, I believe she traveled with them, but she forgot her passport. And because she didn't have any identification, she couldn't go into Mexico.
Okay.
And she was the one who originally reported it to the U.S. Authorities because she was trying to get a hold of them, because the plan had been that the other 3 were going to drop off the woman who was having the tummy tuck surgery and come back across the border and meet back up with this other person, this 5th person. Okay. And when they didn't show up, because it was supposed to be a quick drop off, it was supposed to take 10 minutes to get there, 10 minutes to get back, something like that. She was expecting them very quickly, and they didn't show. And then as she started calling their phones, she wasn't getting any answer to the phone. So that was a new tidbit I just saw last night.
Well, the Mexican drug cartel, they feel bad about this happening apparently, and they sent a letter apologizing for last Friday's deadly kidnapping. And in that kidnapping, you can actually see the video really anywhere online, where they just jerk these 4 people from their vehicle, throw them in the back of a truck. They killed 2 Americans, and there was a local woman local to that area they also killed. And they wrote a letter apologizing for this. The letter, which perpetrates to be the Gulf Cartel, claim those who carried out the attack have been turned over to law enforcement. And you can actually find the picture, and we're going to post the picture on Facebook of the cartel members that were turned over to law enforcement by the cartel themselves. And in the letter, we're going to, just read that to you real quickly. It says, "We strongly condemn the events that took place on March 7th, where unfortunately an innocent working mother died and 4 American citizens were kidnapped, of which 2 died. And therefore, we have decided to hand over those involved and directly responsible for the events, which at all times acted under the determination and in discipline and against the rules that the Gulf Cartel has continuously operated, respecting the life and integrity of the innocent. The CDG apologizes to the Matamoros Society, the relatives of Miss Arley, the affected American individuals and families. The CDG asks the community to be calm, because we are committed to ensuring that these errors caused by the indiscipline are not repeated and that those responsible pay whoever they may be. Sincerely, the CDG." That is
my God,
y'all. They
have their own freaking cartel
letter.
stationery. That's wonderful. But excuse me, apology not accepted. Apology complete bullshit. Okay, you people are sending fentanyl over the border every day, killing thousands of Americans without feeling one iota of guilt. I think what we're seeing here is a cartel that is concerned that they broke the rules. Probably their story is probably legit, that they thought they were a case of mistaken identity, and because they know the crimes that they're committing every day, more or less are happening right under the noses of law enforcement, and everybody's just letting it happen, right? So they've got a really nice business killing American youth every day with their drugs or helping people cross. And I don't know Gulf Cartel versus the others, and whether they're more focused on border crossings than bringing drugs in, et cetera. But we know that these people are operating, and that essentially the government on both sides, but particularly on the Mexican side, but on both sides, has sort of let this stuff happen. So they ran afoul here of the rules as they see them, and some innocent Americans were killed, and so they come out with an apology as if they operate under some kind of ethical code that's worth all of us respecting. Bullshit.
Yeah, and the attorney general for that area actually came out and said the kidnapping appeared to be a case of mistaken identity, and that the group of Americans likely got confused with a rival Haitian gang. And as I told you, they posted a picture of 5 men who were shown they were bound and they were in a face down position, and we'll post that on Facebook so you can see, and basically turned them over to authorities. Said these are the guys. And I can only imagine, Mike, that from the standpoint of this cartel, it's one thing if you're I guess the way you're saying it, you're killing Americans secondhand, and then another way if you're executing them, pulling them out of a vehicle, throwing them into a pickup. Look, they don't want that problem, right? This is a lot of heat on that cartel that they don't want. It's it's one thing when you're killing your fellow people in Mexico or fellow cartel rivals. It's a whole nother thing when you kill some innocent Americans. They're not stupid. They know that. And so whoever is in charge over there basically said, we need to clean up the mess. we need to turn these guys over because they don't want that heat, and they're hoping and praying that it goes away at this point, right? We've done our part. We even sent you an apology letter. What else can we do?
Well, to me, there's a silver lining in this, only from the standpoint that it shows fear, and the fact that there's fear, to me, says they know that they could be dealt with, they could be stopped, they could all be arrested, that we could actually take military, that there are all kinds of things that the United States could do that would interfere in a great way with their livelihood or possibly interfere in a great way with their lives. Yeah. And so this is an apology made out of fear of U.S. retribution, and for us in any way to accept that, is a joke.
Absolutely.
These poor two people that were killed, and the people that we have the pictures of the bodies. Mm-hmm. They were supposed to turn them over. Have they actually turned them over to us?
They have turned them over, to my knowledge. This is a fluid story, but I can tell you, if anything comes out of this, it is just what you said. It shows a little bit of fear that these folks know, mess with innocent Americans, there's probably going to be some backlash you don't want. And look, it happens all the time traveling to Mexico. People there's friends of mine that I have that they've traveled to Mexico in the past, and you always bring extra cash. And that extra cash is because if you get pulled over, you're probably going to have to pay some of that extra cash. And those are things that have been going on kind of forever in Mexico. But murder is different. It's not typical that Americans get murdered in Mexico. And the reason for that is just what you're seeing now, because it's a huge outcry and it can create a response they don't want. It's bad for business.
For sure.
Yeah.
I have a feeling that this story is just going to continue to be a story, and we're going to be talking about it every week, or at least every few weeks. So the Alex Murdaugh story enters a new chapter here, and as the second honorable member of the All Woody team, we owe it to you to give you updates on what's going on in the life of Alex Murdaugh. And so there are a couple of things that have happened here in the past week and a half or so that are of note. The first is, which we all knew was going to happen, which is that his lawyers are filing an appeal in a sign of the times, Jim, because I imagine this wasn't done a century ago. The appeal was announced on Twitter by Dick Harpootlian.
That's amazing.
The defense attorney, who I would have bet wouldn't know what Twitter was, but I would have been wrong there, I guess. But last Thursday, he went on Twitter and announced that he and Jim Griffin have filed a notice of appeal.
Yeah, we knew that was coming.
That this is the next step in the legal process to fight for Alex's constitutional right to a fair trial. So the trial that we all witnessed for 28 days or 29 days, whatever it ended up being, was unfair, according to them. And he went on to say, no amount of vitriol or misguided attacks will stop us from pursuing due process for Alex to the fullest extent of the law.
Amazing that he announced that on Twitter to me. And for those of you that may not, Dick Harpootlian is an older gentleman who you would not think tweeted. I mean, he's got to be in his 70s. Not that that's old, and that's getting up there, but that's these days.
Young for
that's,
U.S. president.
That's right. Yeah, that's right. And so I just found it almost comical that he announced that on Twitter, but it is a sign of the times. And Look, Murdaugh, as much as we try to put him out of the news, he keeps popping back in there. Our last episode, I'm hoping, Mike, that we entertain some people with the crazy Murdaugh phone calls, prison phone calls that we put on there. Y'all, one of the most interesting things about Alec Murdaugh to me, listening to those prison phone calls, and if you hadn't heard them yet, go back and listen, is his absolute detachment with reality. During some of those conversations, one in particular, Mike, he actually said to his son Buster, he was talking to Buster, he says, "You got some money for rent?" And Buster says, that he was scrounging up he had some money, but he was going to try to scrounge up some more. And he said, "Well, you need to ask," I believe it was Murdaugh's brother. "You need to ask him for some money." And he says, "Are you apprehensive to ask him? Is that the problem?" And he says, "Well, it's not really fair that he should have to pay for my rent in my apartment." And Alex said, "It's okay. I already told him I was going to pay him back." I swear to God, that came out of his mouth. And I'm thinking, what about the other $90 million you stole from people that you have not paid back? And
he's good for it all. He's good.
There's
a number of prison schemes that can be really lucrative.
Oh, yeah.
So
pay it back in soup.
He's building a business plan right now. Well, the story doesn't stop there. There's more going on in the world of Murdaugh. The actual trial in the Mallory Beach wrongful death suit is supposed to take place in August. And so Murdaugh's going from finishing one case to now gearing up for this next one. So the wrongful death suit that was originally filed in 2019 is now upon us. And
that's a civil suit, correct, Mike?
Yes, this is the Mark Tinsley, who you remember from the trial, represents the Beach family, mm-hmm. whose really relentless pursuit of Murdaugh really was a key piece in moving things forward. So, be interesting to see where that leads us in August. Now, that related to Paul, obviously, mm-hmm. But we also have the family of the former housekeeper, maid, family member, Gloria Satterfield, looking to exhume her body so that a bunch of testing can be performed to try and figure out whether her death was truly accidental or she was murdered.
Yeah.
So he's not going to be bored in the days after his trial. There's enough stuff flying around, and I don't know what you could do post exhuming that body that's going to answer that kind of question. I mean, maybe if she were drugged, they could find something.
Well, and her death was ruled the cause of tripping and falling, and so you would expect, if she had a fracture in her head, you would expect that with a fall. So the problem is, if he hit her with something and it fractured her somewhere, how do you determine whether that was caused by the fall or whether that was caused by being pushed? I don't know, but maybe they're just making sure there's nothing there that they missed in that respect.
Well, we will let you know what develops there, and that's it for Murdaugh News. Now let's travel to Minnesota, where a dad used a moose antler to kill a sex offender, Jim.
Love it.
This Minnesota man, the victim, was named Lawrence Scully. A Minnesota man by the name of Lawrence Scully was convicted of molesting a 6-year-old girl way back in 1979. The man with the moose antler believed that this guy Scully was stalking his younger daughter. So he walked in to a Minnesota police station covered in blood and told the police that he beat the man with a shovel 15 to 20 times and finished him off with a moose antler. The suspect's name, and this suspect, he walked into the police station covered in blood and admitted to using a shovel 15 to 20 times and finishing him off with a moose antler. But in this world, he is alleged, and he is a suspect. Levi Axtell, 27, was taken into custody and arraigned on second-degree murder charges in the death of now 77-year-old Lawrence Scully, who had been convicted of that murder way back in 1979. Axtell was suspicious of Scully and believed that Scully had been stalking his toddler daughter at her daycare. Axtell said he had known Scully for some time, and he believed him, and quote, he believed him to have sexually offended other children in the past. He said that he observed Scully parked in a vehicle at locations where children were present and believed he would reoffend. He filed an order of protection against Scully, which was initially granted but dropped several weeks later. It's unclear why the order of protection was dropped. The Cook County Sheriff's Office received a 911 call from a citizen who watched someone pull into Scully's Grand Marais driveway, smash a vehicle, and then run into the house. This would be Axtell, according to the affidavit. The citizen then heard screaming coming from the house. While on the call approximately a minute later, the citizen told the dispatcher the man was driving to the police station. So Axtell apparently came out of the house after the screaming and everything else and told that neighbor that he was driving over to the police station to turn himself in. That's when Axtell allegedly told police what happened. He was covered in blood. He put his hands on his head and said he had murdered Scully with a shovel. Here's the part that made me giggle a little bit. The deputies from the Cook County Sheriff's Office found Scully in his home, quote, obviously dead from the serious nature of his head wounds. Obviously dead from the serious nature of his
No
head
need
wounds.
to take a pulse, in other words.
Is that the official designation? Obviously dead? I've never heard that one. So the cause of death.
Killed him good.
He killed him good. Yes, he did. The cause of death was blunt force head injuries, and Scully had wounds on his arms that are consistent, as defensive wounds. Axtell was arraigned Friday and is being held in the Cook County Jail on $1 million bond, despite the objections from his lawyer, Dennis Shaw. Shaw noted Axtell had no serious criminal history until now, and his longtime ties to the city made him a minimal flight risk. I think despite all that, when somebody offs somebody with a shovel and a set of moose antlers, that you're probably better off with that person staying in jail.
That's a heck of a way to go.
So he remains in jail, and his next court appearance is scheduled for April 10th. We will look forward to seeing Mr. Axtell appear in court on April 10th.
Absolutely. Moose antlers. Wow. Well, we got
first use a shovel. You always first use a shovel to soften them up before turning to the antlers.
That's right. That's right. Now we're introducing a couple little, I don't know if you call them wrinkles, Mike, but some great segments to our episodes upcoming. And one of those is our What I'm Watching segment. And for this week, it's I'm going to take this one and I'm going to talk about a show that I absolutely binged on this past weekend on Netflix. And that is called MH370, the plane that disappeared. So I'm going to tell y'all a little bit about this story. For those of you that can remember, back in 2014, Malaysia Airlines flight MH370, which was a 777, a very large airplane, took off. It was headed towards Beijing from Kuala Lumpur, and shortly after takeoff, it vanished into thin air. And this was all over the news. I remember it when it, initially happened. Literally, this plane left the airspace of Kuala Lumpur, and as soon as it went to switch over from those flight controllers to the flight controllers in Beijing, it completely disappeared. There's only one way that can happen typically. Well, there's a couple of ways. The plane can blow up, or someone can intentionally shut off all tracking, right? Any electronic communication system that communicates with satellites. It was totally perplexing. The problem was there were 12 crew members and 227 innocent people on this flight, and which was a total of 239 passengers. So this is a major, massive, big deal. They came out with some theories over time, and I don't want to give you the whole story, but one of those theories was the pilot flew a suicide route. And one of the interesting things that they used, and incidentally, that is my theory, I think, of what happened. One of the most likely things in my mind, because they went to this guy's house shortly after the plane went missing, the captain. And this was a very experienced captain, had a ton of time behind a plane. Not only that, he had a simulator at home, and they were able to go to that simulator, pull the hard drives, and figure out he had flown a similar path that through satellites, they were able to kind of determine pings, almost like on a cell phone. And his flight was almost exactly like those pings on that cell phone. And what they're basically assuming happened is that this plane completely turned around after it turned all those communication devices off, and it just flew in the Indian Ocean until it ran out of gas. And the theory is it was a suicide mission by this captain. They have no idea why. There was nothing in his past to show this, but the fact that he had flown a similar path in his home simulator, awfully coincidental. But there are many other theories. I don't want to give away the whole story for you. You can definitely go check it out. A very interesting documentary there. Netflix does a great job with them all the time. I'm a documentary guy.
I saw it was ranked number one last night.
Yeah.
I saw, and this was a huge story. I remember. Actually, it's funny. I remember Don Lemon on CNN actually saying that a legitimate theory of his was that it flew into a black hole. He actually said that on CNN.
A black hole.
Yeah, flew into a black hole. But yeah, this was the top story in the country for weeks.
Yeah.
Right.
It was very intriguing because it literally disappeared into thin air, just total thin air. And there were no, there's folks out there and they're called Tom noters. And these folks, basically what they do is they're kind of like old ham radio operators, right? But they use satellite technology to look at, think of Google Earth. And when there's disappearances like this or even other cases, they volunteer to go look through just hours and hours of pictures of broad ocean and see if they can see like a little pilot wing, airplane wing floating in the ocean somewhere. And they had some that found some debris that they are convinced to this day is that plane in the South China Sea. But But that keeps getting rebuffed.
What did you say? The crew was 7? Crew was 7?
12.
Crew of 12. I mean, could this guy could he solo pull this off? Wouldn't other crew members be in a position to stop him from doing this?
So I'm glad you asked that. And they had a guy from the United States that he's actually a blogger, famous in the blog world, and he investigates aircraft and aircraft tragedies. And that's kind of like his thing. He was all over this case, obviously, when it occurred. And his theory was that the captain innocently told the co-pilot, "Hey, go grab me something out of my locker," let's say. And the co-pilot got up, and when he walked out to grab it out of the locker, he locked the 777's door. Well, since 9/11, that door's locked. You ain't getting in it. You ain't getting it. This thing's reinforced like the best safe you've ever had in your life. So he locked it, and then he depressurized the cabin, put on a mask. And the issue with that is, yes, all the oxygen masks will drop out of the ceiling like you see on any flight. But what a lot of people don't know is you as a passenger have about 15 minutes of oxygen in that case. The pilot, however, has hours of oxygen. So the theory is he locked him out, depressurized the cabin, oxygen mask come down. After 15 minutes, there's no oxygen in there. So the people just go to sleep and pass away as he's flying. And so he's got hours of oxygen because he's the pilot, and he just flew it into the ocean. That's the theory. One of the theories, one of the many.
So if that theory is correct, 238 people knew they were on a death flight and had however much time
in that
they had to live.
Yeah. What surprised me and why that theory bothers me just a little bit is, of those 238 people, if that situation happened and technology where it's at, nobody tried to send a text. Nobody tried to, there was no communication with the outside world, but everybody's got cell phones. You could have emailed somebody. And you can now be 20,000 feet in the air and you can still text. It may not go through until you get down closer to ground, but I can't believe that people didn't try to text and look, even if you're crashing, you're going to get to a point in time where that text is going to go through on the way down. Right.
Yeah. But who knows what the passengers were doing. It's all, who knows? They all could have been attacking that door, using whatever they could find to try and break through it despite all the reinforcement.
And you've only got about 15 minutes. So yeah, you're right.
What an awful
situation, but a fantastic Netflix documentary that is brand new, just came out, and you'll enjoy.
Certainly better than watching the Oscars, which
I did not.
Which no one did.
Oscars. Yeah.
No, actually, I think I saw 18 million people did, which is really, if you look at pre-COVID numbers, way, way down.
Yeah. Yeah. So on to another news story that's really going to blow your mind, to say the least. A Oklahoma cheerleader coach who had sex with a student 300 times was manipulative and controlling, say the cops. A former Oklahoma cheerleading coach was allegedly manipulative and boy, I struggle with that word. I'm going to leave that in. And controlling, and forced a sophomore to have sex with her several times a week for about 5 years, according to a probable cause affidavit. Jennifer Hawkins, 45, was a part-time employee in the Moore Public School District and had a alleged relationship with the victim. and she has since been fired. Imagine that. The victim was a sophomore when the relationship started in September of 2017, and of course has since graduated. Now, on January 27th of this year, the victim sent a letter to district officials from a rehab center in California. He basically detailed the allegations against Hawkins. When authorities confronted Hawkins, she initially denied the allegations, but then admitted she made a mistake. She started crying and said she was having a sexual relationship with the student. When asked,
she made 300 mistakes.
Yeah. Well, when they asked her how many times did you have sex with the victim, she repeatedly stated, "I got no clue." So the victim then told police in a separate interview that she had sex over 300 times at her house, which went on during lunch. The victim briefly dated Hawkins' daughter, which is how he and the now fired employee met.
My God.
The victim allegedly told police in a separate interview that he had sex with her over 300 times, and this went on during lunch. Now, the victim briefly dated Hawkins' daughter, which is how he and the now fired high school employee met. And while watching a soccer game at her house initially, Hawkins touched his private area and said he would remember that soccer match for the rest of his life. Now, most of these sexual encounters happened in Hawkins' home, where she brought the victim during lunch. In text, he, being the victim, told Hawkins, "I want you in my life. I just don't want a romantic relationship." Hawkins was arrested and charged with second-degree rape and sexual battery. So 300 times, Mike.
Well, okay. So I got a couple things here. So this started when he was 17 as a sophomore.
Yeah.
So started back in 2017 when he was a sophomore, where he likely would have been 16, probably. And so 6 years.
I would say 15.
22
He'd have been
today.
15.
Usually you're 18 when you're a senior, right? So it could have been 15
to
16, right? And well, first of all, they're going to her house. They're going to her house during lunch constantly. I mean, didn't anyone see that and think that was a little bit strange? I mean, I'm shocked that.
Well, I'm sure they kept that under wraps. Yeah.
I mean, a teacher taking off with a student at lunchtime is kind of a weird one if it's happening that often. But I'm struck by the fact that, okay, he's 16 or 17 or 15 or 16 when this starts. And it goes on for 6 years, goes on 300 times before he actually files some kind of complaint.
Yeah, he wasn't having a problem with it.
Does not appear that he was having a problem with it.
As we've, Woody and me and Mike have all hammered down, but Woody being the expert in this, is that you can't consent as a juvenile to any sort of relationship with an adult. So whether he enjoyed it or not is beside the point. You can't consent to it, and that's where the charges come into play. And you're right. I mean, why wait 5 years and then come out? I don't know.
Well, it said he was in some kind of rehab program right now. Mm-hmm. So we don't know what kind of rehab, right? So maybe that's related. Maybe he was impacted emotionally in a big way who knows? And he started out dating the daughter. I mean, this is just such a effed up thing.
Slimy.
So the mother basically steals the daughter's boyfriend, and then 300 times or however many times it was, she says, whatever she said, no clue how many times it was. And he had said that he thought it was 300 times. So, he's not the age of consent, but, I think in the normal course of things, if something went like this, the complaint probably never gets made because they clearly were still having sex with each other when he was of age.
Right.
At least for a year or two. So just bizarre situation. Woody would have had something funny to say about this.
Yeah.
I don't know what's funny about it, but, hit on somebody.
We'll get him to comment on the
later.
next on the next episode, his thoughts. All right, Mike, we were Woody list today and we made it through.
Barely.
Limping and crawling and limping. Hopefully y'all enjoyed it.
Could have used Woody on that last
Absolutely.
that last session. So Woody, get on social media there from your deathbed and give us some feedback on that story.
Yeah, and we appreciate y'all listening. Look, go to the Facebook page. We post, as we've referred to in this episode, when we talk about these stories, we're going to try to post so you can get a picture of what we're talking about through the Facebook page. Please share the episode on your social media, the links and all those sorts of things, and tell other people about Real Life for a Crime Daily and all of those sorts of things. We really appreciate it. Until next time, I'm Jim Chapman.
I'm Mike Agavino.
For Real Life for a Crime Daily, peace.
Show business.
Lowe's knows you want to get even more value for the holiday. That's why as a My Lowe's Rewards member, you get new member deals on holiday decor, tools, and more. And you earn points when you shop. More points equal more rewards to help you save on holiday and more. Not a member? Join for free today at Lowes.com/MyLowe'sRewards because Lowe's knows deals. Program subject to terms and conditions. Points are awarded on eligible purchases. See Lowes.com/terms for full details. Subject to change.